Imagine waking up tomorrow, grabbing your morning coffee, checking your phone, and realizing the entire federal government, every sprawling department, every alphabet soup agency has simply vanished overnight. No Department of Education, no Environmental Protection Agency, no federal tax collectors, just a complete and sudden evaporation of the central bureaucracy. Could a unified nation actually survive that? Or would it instantly fracture into absolute chaos?
That is the ultimate political thought experiment, isn't it? It's like asking if a human body can keep walking after you surgically remove its central nervous system. You would intuitively think the answer is an immediate catastrophic collapse, but history, human resilience, and modern technology suggest something far stranger might happen. We wouldn't just vanish into the Dark Ages, we might actually see a brutal, hyper efficient evolution of how a society operates.
It is a terrifying but deeply fascinating premise. We rely on this massive, invisible infrastructure for everything from the safety of the medicine in our cabinets to the structural integrity of the bridges we drive over. If you pull the plug on the federal bureaucracy, what steps in to fill that massive vacuum?
Mm. You would immediately see a monumental power shift down to the state and local levels, combined with aggressive, unchecked Privacy Minute. Think about it. Without a federal Department of Transportation, states would either have to form regional coalitions to maintain interstate highways, or private corporations would swoop in, buy the infrastructure, and turn everything into subscription-based toll roads. You wouldn't have a unified national policy anymore. You would have 50 separate, highly competitive laboratories of governance.
So, essentially, a return to a hyper localized system, almost like a modern techno feudalism. I can see how that might drive innovation in some areas, but how do you handle things that absolutely require a unified front? National defense, for instance, or responding to a massive natural disaster? You cannot just have a loose group of states trying to coordinate a military response through a group chat.
Exactly, and that is where the utopian libertarian dream hits a massive, unforgiving brick wall. For defence, you might see a corporate subscription based model or a mandatory coalition treaty among the wealthiest states, but it would be incredibly fragile. The deeper, much darker cost here is inequality. Without federal oversight or a centralised treasury redistributing wealth, a rich state could become a futuristic utopia with pristine private services, while a poorer state right next door might literally run out of clean water and basic security. You are essentially trading bureaucratic inefficiency for raw, unfiltered disparity.
It really is the ultimate trade off. You strip away the red tape, but you also completely strip away the safety net. It makes you wonder if our massive federal departments are actually a feature of modern civilization rather than a bug. We complain about the bureaucracy, but it might be the only thing keeping the concept of a unified nation from shattering into 50 competing corporate city-states.
Mm. Speaking of peeling back the layers of complex systems and finding the hidden truths beneath, we need to take a quick moment to talk about a show that does exactly that. If you are enjoying this kind of deep dive, you absolutely have to check out the new Sentinel.
Yes, highly recommended. The New Sentinel is a podcast dedicated to providing in-depth discussions and deep dives into a wide array of topics, from the glitz and glamour of pop culture to the strategic intricacies of military operations. They truly cover it all.
Each episode is thoughtfully crafted to offer listeners a comprehensive understanding of the subject matter, featuring expert interviews, detailed analysis, and incredibly engaging storytelling. It is rare to find a show that balances entertainment and heavy analysis so perfectly.
Whether you are a pop culture enthusiast or someone with a keen interest in global security, the new Sentinel has something for everyone. Make sure to tune in, subscribe, comment, and like to stay informed and entertained.
Now, bringing it back to global security and the harsh realities of running a nation, let's look at the implications of that massive geopolitical situation we were reviewing before we started recording. We saw a scenario where a major, devastating military strike against a foreign adversary was abruptly halted at the very last minute in favour of back-channel diplomacy involving rival superpowers and Middle Eastern allies. What does that whiplash tell us about modern statecraft?
It is a staggering pivot. 1 minute. The public messaging is all about absolute destruction, deploying stealth bombers and utilizing overwhelming technological superiority. The next minute, it is all about peace deals, economic leverage, and diplomatic pragmatism. It tells us that the era of unilateral ideological warfare is heavily constrained by global economics. The war drums were beating incredibly loud, but the calculus changed because of the absolute economic terror of what a closed shipping strait would do to the global energy market.
It is a masterclass in pragmatic, almost cynical diplomacy. It strips away the romanticised idea of war and peace. Peace wasn't achieved in this scenario out of a sudden moral awakening. It was achieved because skyrocketing gas prices absolutely destroy domestic political careers. You cannot fight a war abroad if your citizens are furious at the gas pump back home. It really highlights how domestic policy like inflation, the cost of groceries, and upcoming midterm elections can literally stop a missile in its tracks.
That is such a profound realization. The fate of entire nations, the decision to drop bombs or sign treaties, hinges on the price of a gallon of gas in the Midwest. And look at the players involved in the diplomacy. You have a rival superpower stepping in to pressure the adversary by threatening to stop oil purchases. You have neighboring nations pleading for a pause. It is a complex web of mutual self-interest.
Precisely. And it reveals a massive shift in military strategy. Instead of a traditional invasion, we are seeing the outsourcing of maximum pressure. You get another global superpower to cut off the oil money. You choke the funding. It is cleaner on paper, but it is an incredible high-wire act. The administration realised that a domestic victory keeping prices down and the economy stable was vastly more valuable for political survival than a messy, unpredictable foreign excursion.
But doesn't this reliance on economic leverage and foreign intermediaries make the unified nation we were just talking about look incredibly vulnerable? We project this image of absolute sovereignty, of a federal powerhouse that dictates terms to the world. But if our foreign policy is dictated by the fear of inflation and the diplomatic leverage of rival nations, are we really in control?
That is the million-dollar philosophical question. The reality exposed by this event is that true power isn't just having the biggest military or the most advanced stealth bombers. True power is controlling the supply chains. You can have a military capable of intercepting 100 missiles simultaneously, but all it takes is the threat of a single, low-tech water mine in a crucial shipping lane to bring the global economy to its knees.
It is the ultimate asymmetry. Billions of dollars in military technology held at bay by the simple geometry of a narrow strait and the global addiction to oil. And there was also that fascinating rhetoric about the winner taking the spoils, treating global conflict almost like a corporate acquisition. It feels like a very transactional view of global stability.
It is entirely transactional, and the human element is almost always buried under these massive geopolitical maneuvers. While leaders talk about oil barrels, strait passages, and domestic polling numbers, there are millions of civilians living in the shadow of these decisions. The people on the ground in these hostile nations are often desperate for basic freedoms, yet they are the ones who suffer the consequences, whether the bombs actually drop or the economic sanctions just slowly tighten. The cost of this pragmatic diplomacy is always paid by the invisible citizens caught in the crossfire.
It really forces you to step back and look at the entire architecture of power. We started today by asking if a nation could survive without its internal federal bureaucracy. And we ended up unraveling how even the most powerful government on earth is ultimately at the mercy of global supply chains and domestic economic anxieties.
It is a deeply humbling realization. Whether it is the internal machinery of a nation or the delicate, high-stakes balance of global peace, everything is connected by incredibly fragile threads. We build these massive systems, bureaucracies, militaries, alliances to feel secure, but at the end of the day, survival often comes down to pragmatic compromises and the basic human need for stability.
Which leaves us with something to chew on long after today's episode ends. If our domestic peace relies on an ever-expanding federal machine, and our global peace relies on the cold, transactional calculus of economic leverage, what happens when one of those systems finally breaks? Who steps in to catch us when the safety net gives way? Something to think about as you go about your day. Until next time, keep questioning the systems around you.